They hurt you again. But the part they never understood is that every time they cut you, you were taking notes. Every betrayal was a blueprint. Every lie was a map. Every manipulation was a lesson carved into your mind with a blade you didn't ask for but learned to wield. Now, it won't happen again, because the version of you they hurt is gone. Pain woke something in you that comfort never could. Pain stripped away softness. Pain sharpened vision. Pain forced you to see truth without filters, without excuses, without mercy. Pain isn't your enemy. Pain is the cold mentor that speaks when everyone else is lying. Pain whispers truths that comfort hides. And once you hear it clearly, you can't unhear it. You can't go back. You can't be who you were. Pain told you the truth. You trusted too easily. You opened the gates without questioning who wanted in. You underestimated how deeply people crave control over a man who leads with his heart. They don't attack your strength. They attack your empathy. They don't try to overpower you. They try to guilt you. They try to twist your loyalty into a leash. They study your reactions, like weak men studying the movements of lions. They look for patterns they can exploit. Your patience, your forgiveness, your desire to fix what others break. They use those traits because they know you won't notice the trap until you're already caught. But that was the old you, the sleeping you, the version that believed intentions mattered more than behavior. That version has been burned away. Now you rise with clarity, cold clarity, the kind that only comes after being cut deeper than you ever deserved. You don't need rage. Rage is sloppy. You don't need revenge. Revenge is emotional. You don't need their apology, their explanation, their closure. You are closure. You are the ending they never anticipated. Because pain rebuilt you into a man who doesn't break the same way twice. A man who doesn't fall for words when actions contradict. A man who doesn't tolerate disrespect wrapped in excuses. A man who doesn't offer unlimited access to a soul that bleeds gold. Pain taught you to measure people by their patterns, not their promises. Promises are cheap. Patterns are data. And when you start seeing the data clearly, manipulation collapses. You stop reacting. You stop defending. You stop absorbing guilt like a sponge. Instead, you become stone, cold, silent, heavy. You become unreadable, and manipulators can't operate without information. Your silence starves them. Your distance suffocates them. Your composure destroys them. They don't know how to handle a man who doesn't play the emotional games they rely on to control him. You learned the truth. Access to you is a privilege, not a right. And privileges can be revoked without warning. You don't need to announce that you're done. You simply step back. You step out. You step away. Quiet exits are the loudest lessons. When you stop engaging, they hear everything they refused to listen to before. You learned that most people aren't loyal. They're dependent. Dependent on your attention, your forgiveness, your willingness to carry the emotional weight they refuse to lift. But when you pull your energy away, they collapse under the weight of their own emptiness. That's not cruelty. That's gravity. Pain sharpened your boundaries. Not the soft boundaries built on hope, but the hard boundaries built on self-respect. You don't beg people to treat you right. You observe how they treat you and decide if they stay. You don't argue with liars. You document their patterns and walk away. You don't try to fix people who benefit from your brokenness. You let them face themselves. When your presence is no longer there to soften their reflection, pain made you disciplined. Pain made you selective. Pain made you dangerous, not in violence, but in indifference. True danger is emotional sovereignty. True danger is not reacting when they expect you to fall apart. True danger is being able to walk away from anything that threatens your peace. The world fears a man who cannot be manipulated, a man who doesn't get hooked by guilt, a man who doesn't break under pressure, a man who can sit in silence while others scramble for control. You became that man, not because you wanted to, but because pain forced evolution. Pain upgraded your operating system. Pain rewired your instincts. Pain taught you that emotional discipline is the highest form of power. You learned to feel everything, but react to nothing. You learned that restraint is stronger than outburst. You learned that stillness is stronger than chaos. You learned that when your heart freezes, your mind sees clearly. They hurt you, but they miscalculated the outcome. They thought you would crumble. They thought you would beg. They thought you would compete for their attention or chase after their approval. But pain changed your rules. Now you don't chase. You replace. You don't cling. You detach. You don't fold. You fortify. You no longer fight for people who don't fight for you. You no longer justify patterns that scream truth. You no longer keep doors open that should have been locked years ago. Pain taught you the art of emotional detachment, not numbness. Control. You feel everything, but nothing controls you. You see everything, but nothing destabilizes you. You want connection, but never at the cost of dignity. You are willing to love, but you are never willing to lose yourself in the process. Pain carved out the weakness. Pain purified the judgment. Pain burned away the illusions. People will say you've changed. They're right. You changed from someone who tolerated disrespect into someone who rejects it instantly. You changed from someone who carried others into someone who walks alone when necessary. You changed from someone who looked for the good in everyone into someone who evaluates the truth in everyone. You changed because pain exposed everything you refused to see. The users, the liars, the emotional parasites, the people who loved your softness but never respected your strength. Now you enforce silence like a weapon. Silence is where you heal. Silence is where you plan. Silence is where you observe. Silence is where you rise. Manipulators fear silence because silence reveals who they are without your energy to mask it. Silence is the mirror they cannot hide from, and you learn to wield it with surgical precision. Pain turned your heart into ice, but not the kind that kills, the kind that preserves. You froze out the noise, the chaos, the manipulation. You froze out the weakness, the insecurities, the self-doubt. You became colder because coldness protects the fire you carry within. Coldness guards your purpose. Coldness shields your mission. Coldness creates distance from the very forces that once drained you. This new version of you is not cruel. This version is calibrated. This version is controlled. This version is immune to the emotional traps that once held you hostage. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer available on demand. You're no longer emotionally naked in front of people who don't deserve to know how you feel. Pain whispered one final truth. Never let someone hurt you the same way twice. And you listened. You carved that truth into your spine. It guides every decision. It shapes every boundary. It fuels every step forward. Now you rise above the patterns that once destroyed you. You rise from cold ground with a colder mind. You rise not for revenge, but for rebirth. They hurt you again, but that was the last time. Pain didn't break you. Pain transformed you. Pain trained you. Pain chose you. And now you walk as a man rebuilt in ice, guided by truth, untouchable by manipulation, unstoppable in purpose. Pain woke the warrior. Pain forged the weapon. Pain made you Sub-Zero. Pain made you the man they will never be ready for again.